Shalom. Before I begin this video, first and foremost, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that continually rule very well to this very day, that is continually feeding the flock through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. And also Shalom to the Hof elect, who is also laboring this work, in this labor of love, giving you due diligence to make your calling and election sure, in faith, in truth and sincerity, and all charity. Now, the topic of this video is going to be entitled Unleavened Bread, Sincerity. Okay? Now, if the Spirit has it to where I titled this video in a different way, of course, you already know, I'll change the title according to the Spirit. But in this particular video, or in this lesson, I want to go into the topic of unleavened bread and the dynamics of unleavened bread, because we're getting close to the Passover. And speaking of unleavened bread, that is a part of the Passover. Really that's a big part of the Passover, besides the lamb, all right, which we already know what the lamb represents, which represents Yahweh Shai, who these people inwardly call Jesus. But concerning the unleavened bread, that's also symbolic, because the unleavened bread, the dynamics of unleavened bread is that first and foremost, it doesn't rise. All right, because if you put leaven in bread, which leaven, by the way, is yeast. All right, and starting from the evening of the Passover, that is known as the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which lasts for a whole week. And like I mentioned before, concerning leaven, which is yeast, yeast makes bread rise. Okay. And we, who are part of this truth, who know Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai and believe, we're supposed to be unleavened. All right. What does it mean to be unleavened? It means to be sincere, to be humble. All right. Because as you go into the scriptures, even Yahweh Shai warned us not to be leavened. All right. And also as well, going to the dynamics of unleavened bread, not only does it not rise, or is lifted up, which is another way to put it. Unleavened bread is also not fancy. All right, it's not fancy. It's not something that's how should I put it? It's not fancy. It's not did up. It's not looked at as the greatest. Something as the greatest of all time, so to speak, for lack of a better term. But it's flat. Basically unleavened bread, it's just when it's made, it's just that, it's flat. It's not it doesn't rise. It's not anything pleasant to behold. That's also goes into when Yahweh Shai came on the earth in the flesh. He was looked at as a common man. He didn't come in a glorious fashion. He came in just how another person would come in. He came in through a natural birth, in which the people don't understand that. They still believe that Mary gave birth without receiving seed from Joseph, in which that's false. It was a natural birth. All right. The seed which came from Joseph, which come from the line of David. And then through that seed, which was within Mary, she conceived and gave a natural birth. All right. So Yahushua came in through a normal process. All right. And also as well, the scriptures also speak about him coming in like manner as unto sinful flesh. All right. Because that's how he came in. He came in through the act of sex. Joseph laid down with Mary, which, sex in general makes you unclean. That's why when you go into the law, when you lay down with a woman and she conceives seed, she becomes unclean. Now, if it's a man child, I forgot how many years or how many days it takes for her to be cleansed. I don't know the exact number. I had to go into the law to get it. You brothers know exactly where that is in Leviticus. You can post it in the comments. And that number is double if it's a girl or a woman child. All right. And another thing that lets you know that it was a natural birth is that she had to follow the law of giving birth to a man child. All right, she was unclean for a certain amount of time, and then after that time expired, she was clean again. All right. But not to stray too far off topic, again, just as Yahushua was unleavened when he came in the flesh, likewise us. All right. We're also supposed to be unleavened. All right. To be sincere, to be humble. And it stands to this very day, man. The majority of Israel can't do that. Okay. That's why it takes, it's only a certain out of Israel that's going to be unleavened. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump into the precepts I have here. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7. It says, "Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened." All right. So it says, purge out the old leaven. What's the old leaven? The old leaven represents that old man, which was based on what? Pride. All right. Because pride is indicative to having leaven. All right. And how do we know that our old selves or the old man was prideful? Well, because we was going off. All right. We didn't know anything about our heritage or who we were, our nationality, or even anything about the Lord. So we were to purge the old leaven, right, which is the old man, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened, right? And that new lump, which is the new man, is the man that is unleavened. All right. Because when you're dealing in this truth, man, you have to be sincere. That's the greatest of requirements there is, man. If it's not in you, it's not in you. All right. Because that in itself, the Lord has given that to certain individuals to be that way. You can't fake it. All right. Continue on. It says, "For even Yahushua, our Passover, is sacrificed for us." Why? Because Yahushua was unleavened. All right. Verse 8. It says, "Therefore, let us keep the feast not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice." Right. And malice goes into wickedness. And here it is right here. I wasn't even looking at it. Malice, which also means evil. So it says, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, right? But with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. Right. The unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. Okay. And that's how we keep the Passover. But not only that, not only does it deal with, the Passover that we have year to year, but this also goes into the new Passover that we're going to come into. All right. And what's that new Passover? Let me go ahead and grab it. All right, it's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 16. This is at verse 14. All right, Jeremiah 16 and 14. It says, "Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought out the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt," right? And that's a part of it, right? In which that's was based on. It commemorates our deliverance out of Egypt, right? Verse 15 says, "But the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them." All right. And what's the land of the north? North America. All right. And not only does it representation of, or should I say, not only is it deemed as the land of the north, but it's also known as the New Egypt. If you go into Revelations, it says the city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. All right. So not only do we take heed of the Passover, which is concerning us being delivered out of the captivity of Egypt, but also being delivered out of the New Egypt. All right, which we're coming into. Reading on, it says, "Now I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers." All right. Now, yeah, that's it on that. I want to grab another precept. It's Matthew chapter 16. And I'm going to start at verse 11. It says, "How is it that ye do not understand that I speak it not to you concerning bread, that ye should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees?" And during that time, the wicked scribes, Pharisees, and Sadducees, man, they were lifted up with pride. The things that they were doing were to be seen of men, which again, that goes into leaven. Leaven is something that makes bread rises. Okay. But it goes a little bit deeper, right? In verse 12, it says, "Then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees." And what was the doctrine? Really, if I may, I want to go ahead and go into those two words there, because if I'm not mistaken, you have ones that were a part of the political, I want to say the political world, and then you have ones that weren't. If I'm not mistaken, let me see if I can pull that definition of it. It may give it to me. Let's see. Right. So this one, it says they recognize the oral tradition and the standard of belief in life. Let's see here. Right. So they were, I believe the Pharisees were a tradition, and let me go into Sadducees for a second. Okay, so this is the word for Sadducees, right? These were the ones who denied the oral law and who deemed the written law above alone to be obligatory on the nation, and they saw that as the divine authority. All right, so they and they denied the resurrection. All right, so you had ones that were who believed in the oral law, right, and the ones that speaking about the prophecies, because you had certain Pharisees that actually believed that Yahushua was the one who was spoken about in the prophecy, but you had ones that didn't believe. All right, and then you had the Sadducees that were into the written law. All right, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if you go into the history, they had more of a political influence in the nation of Israel. So again, it says, verse 12, it says, then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. And really what the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees was, their doctrine was hypocritical. All right, because what they were following was what Yahushua was against. In other words, they would say one thing and then they would do something else. They'll tell somebody to follow the law and then teach wayward doctrines, and then they'll do something completely different. So that's why Yahushua told the ones that believed that to beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. All right, because it was the doctrine that they were pushing during that time. All right. Now I'm going from there. And this is another precept I want to add in. All right, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 5. And let me get to the point. It's at verse 6. It says, your glorying is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? And that's right. And actually, sluggy, I didn't even see that. There is actually a verse up from verse 7 in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. So it says, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. All right. Because really it only takes a pinch of leaven to really make bread rise, man. It doesn't take much. All right. And that's why, we made mention before a few times that when we speak about pride, pride is a slow death. All right. Because it creeps in and you don't even see it coming. It creeps in and then it completely destroys you and you'll never know. Why? Because it comes in little by little. So with the that little amount of pride that seeps into a person, that can be their death. All right. So that's why we constantly examine ourselves, man. Make sure that leaven is not there. All right. And actually, there was another precept that I was thinking about. I lost it at one point. Now I want to bring it out now. This is actually, let me do a word search on it. Slovakia. Spirit almost, that scripture almost ran away from me again. First, Philippians chapter 2 and verse 5. Philippians chapter 2, verse 5. It says, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Hamashiach Yahushai, who being in the form of the Most High, thought it not robbery to be equal with the Most High, but made himself of no reputation." Read that again. I'm gonna start at verse 6. It says, "Who being in the form of the Most High, thought it not robbery to be equal with the Most High, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross." So Yahushua made himself of no reputation, even though he knew who he was. He knew he was the Son of the Most High, but he still made himself of no reputation. All right. And took upon the form of a servant. All right. And was made in the likeness of men. And we come in that same spirit that we're just servants, man. All right. That's why Yahushua said, and I believe it's in the book of Luke, it says that when you have done everything that you're supposed to do, roughly paraphrasing, it says to say within yourselves, "We are unprofitable servants. We have done that which was commanded of us to do." All right. So that's why at verse 5 it says, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Hamashiach Yahushua." So this was on his mind constantly. All right, that he would make himself of no reputation, man. So we're supposed to arm ourselves in like manner, in the same mind. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it off on that note. Lord's will, it was edifying to the elect of the nation of Israel. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the others of great millstone and rule well to this day. Also, shalom, peace and safety, and salutations to the whole elect that is also plowing his work, that's spreading his ministry and his gospel to the other members of the whole elect in faith, in truth and sincerity, and in all charity. And with that, I'm going to say shalom.